Hey everybody, I'm Mike Letschin. I am one of the product managers with Nexenta, but I'm actually going to kind of run into some details on VSAN. And one of the things about VSAN that is kind of intriguing and different and a little more difficult is there's things that you kind of need. So the presentation is all about files for you, files for me, and no real files for VSAN. But really files, who needs files? I mean, who anymore is actually utilizing, do files matter? Well, I just build virtual machines. I mean, we do a lot of things within VMware. It is a VMware product, but things like my desktop, my user profile, things that are mattering for my environment, maybe even departmental data. There's a lot of things that I have to have that files really seem to matter for, and it's one of the limitations within VSAN. So before I kind of dig into how that can be solved, we're going to dig in a little bit into actually what do I get with VSAN. And with VSAN, I definitely get that scale-out hyper-converged model that it doesn't matter which system I've got, I can build that out. There are some minimum requirements. It's got to be a VSAN certified node, or it's got to be on the VSAN HCL. There's a couple different ways you can build it out. But each hosts a couple different things on it. It has to have at least one HDD, one SSD, one SSD for it to be able to work. But what do I get from that? So I build out an environment that has virtual machine storage. So if you look at, say, a VDI environment, I get my C drive. That's basically what I get. I get the C drive. I get that system drive, but I'm not getting any of the other pieces to it. However, it's super easy to manage, built into vCenter, and it's based on the VMware storage profiles. So storage profiles are one of those things that is a reasonably new thing within VMware, but allows you to do a lot of different things within it. So one of the things specifically around vSAN is I'm able to get specifically 5 different vSAN storage profiles and things I can do on it. Things like how many hosts can I tolerate failure? And that's really a key when I'm looking at the hyper-converged model. So I've got, can I have host, disk, can I lose the network on a couple hosts? I can set that right away when I'm building out my storage profiles. Then it's how much disk redundancy do I need? If I'm going to spread my data across, primarily if I'm looking for better performance across my vSAN environment, I do striping across the disk. So for those of you who are real storage guys, you know striping is really going to give you some of your fastest performance. When you start getting RAID penalty and the write penalty of things like mirrors and RAID 5, RAID 6 things, you start degrading on some of your performance. And there's things like object space reservation. That's going to be real similar to that thick provisioning that we're used to with traditional VMware environments. But when you're looking at a vSAN, it creates a different data store, and it's not that true LUN and data store that you're used to. So you're going to kind of add in that. This allows you to really reserve that space. So it's just a space reservation right away. And then, of course, flash read cache. So for any environment now, any storage environment, obviously we need to have that flash capability and the ability to have caching up front to speed up reads. Specifically within vSAN, the ability for vSAN to do that read cache as a percentage of the VMDK that's there. So I can say if I've got a VMDK that is maybe 100 gig VMDK, I want 10% of that reserved and pulled out from the SSD, and that's why you're required to have that SSD within vSAN, so that I can pull that out. And then of course, just in case there's some reason these fail, because when you're building out that storage profile, you need to be able to say, yes, it's in compliance, no, it's not. However, sometimes I just want machines to build, regardless, and then we'll come back and fix it later. And that's what the forced provisioning is really for. It's going to ignore those policies, but it'll let you vMotion a machine once the policy comes back into compliance. Maybe I already had that host failure, but I'm trying to build a machine, and I don't have enough hosts available. Well, as soon as that host comes back up, VMware will recognize it, HA will take over, you can go ahead and you can vMotion the machines over to it. So it's great. Sounds like there's a lot to vSAN, but there are some limitations. We talked about it at the very beginning, I need my files, and there's no way to store files specifically on vSAN. Yes, I could do a lot of different things. I could build a VM and say run a Windows box and then deal with that, and now I've got to manage things like antivirus and protection on the Windows box. It's one more machine to manage. But it doesn't give me the full software-defined hyperconvergence model that is really wanted out of vSAN. Also, your data is locked on those vSAN nodes. So if I have a 30-node cluster and I only have 6 nodes of vSAN, all my storage remains on those nodes. Of course, with that being a limitation of up to 32 nodes as well. And I can't just say the traditional, I've got an x86 server, I can go build a VMware hypervisor. For vSAN, it's got to be on the HCL. Whether it's the pieces of it's got to be there, whether it's the entire ready node, it doesn't really matter. I've got to have that all there. And again, going back to every single node has to have an SSD. So your cost point just adds up each time you're doing it. So the larger you have to get, especially if you're just hoping to get those file services out of it, or you're just using it for some extra capacity, you're adding cost to it right away. But if you're going to run virtual machines on it, this is a clear model and a great way to be able to add just virtual machines along the way. So then we've seen a lot of new buzz about the Evo Real solution. I mean, it's really the next gen of that. It's really that whole bundled solution and real clean interface. I like to refer to it as virtualization meets Apple TV. So for anyone who's using Apple TV, you see it and it's point, click, you're done. I mean, the comment was you can deploy an Evo Real in 3 minutes and 56 seconds, I believe was or 56 milliseconds, I think was what we heard. 3 minutes and 56 milliseconds you can be done and you can have it deployed. Well, it's great, really plug and play. I mean, you're building it out piece by piece. It is that hyperconvergence model. In the back end of it, while you have a new UI, it's still based on vSphere, vCenter, and then vSAN, as well as having an NSX built into it as well. And there's kind of some baselines on what you get on it. I mean, it's a new interface, but I can get 100 nodes per 100 VMs on there, 250 desktops, and I've got storage space. So, but if I have 250 desktops, and say I'm using link clones, do I need 13 terabytes worth of space for them just for the base images? Probably not. My guess is it's probably about a 40 gig VM. Maybe you need 100 gigs. 13 terabytes might be a bit excessive at that point. So I've got all this extra wasted space. So along the way, you've heard VMware say over and over, use every bit of your hypervisor. Use the CPU, use the memory. No, that disk, don't worry about that. Again, we're saying now, use the disk, make vSAN on it, but don't worry about the fact that there's a little bit of overhead there, 13 terabytes that you're not using. You might use that 0.1. That 0.1 could come in handy. Oh, and by the way, since it's going to come in a 4-node configuration, you've actually got 52 terabytes sitting there of just space it's not really used. So you still need to add some file services on. Again, you get files, you get files, you get files, vSAN, no files for you. I feel like I'm the soup Nazi coming out on it. It's no files for you, vSAN. So there is a way to do it. And part of the ecosystem around vSAN and around VMware, Evo Connect is a new deployment. Actually, it was just launched and released in VMworld around virtual SAN, giving you that file storage capability. So it's managed the same as vSAN through the web client interface. Gives you a lot of the enterprise functionality you were missing with those files as well. I mean, we want to be able to do inline compression. We want to be able to know what's going on with our system. And I think one of the keys is folder and volume level snapshots. So imagine you've built out this down 52 terabyte array, this whole pod set up with your Evo Real maybe, and you need to put those files in. We put files on there. The beautiful thing is if you schedule snapshots, now your end users can restore them themselves. You can go in and do things like go to the previous versions within Windows and just restore that file back, open it, get the data that's missing, grab the pieces. Being able to restore that whole thing back, and even entire volumes if you're the administrator to restore entire volume, is critical if you're using those files. So for a lot of people, if you're using that link clone environment, say with VDI, the desktop isn't the part that matters. The files are the part that matter. So if I lose a desktop, I can deal with it. But I need to be able to find some way to restore that data, because I don't know about everyone else, but if I have to figure out some way to get all my pictures back and restore my desktop the way I want and get the background back, background I might be able to live with. I'll go find a new one. But a lot of people, that's what they use. That picture of their dog, the picture of their cat, they want that back. And more importantly, the spreadsheet that I just used to figure out how I'm going to run my entire environment and how my company is running. I need to be able to get that data back. And it all does that with higher end data integrity. The way it's really built is you take that core vSAN cluster. So it's still critical to it. You still need to have the vSAN knowledge. You need to be able to build your storage profiles. So picture you've got a storage profile that you're building out that says I want 2 nodes of resiliency. And I have another one that's a performance one that I'm striping data across. Well, maybe that performance one, that's where I'm putting my VMs. That's where I want those VMs that I'm building because I need that performance. But I just want some resiliency in my files. I can now put down a different storage profile, build out a single I/O engine on top of that, get the caching, get the compression, and then present out SMB or NFS out to not just the couple nodes within vSAN, but now I can expand without vSAN, outside of vSAN, to the entire data center. So now vSAN not only becomes a hyperconvergence model, but it's truly software-defined hyperconvergence all the way to the entire environment. I mean, it gives you things. You can see the metrics of it, and right in vCenter, see all the way through anything from data reduction all the way through acceleration and how much caching I'm using. And it's easy. I grab it, I click one button, I add a folder. Nice, easy, and then I pick up where I'm going to it, and there it is. The snapshots, a lot of people are saying, well, snapshots are great, I can take an ad hoc snapshot. Well, if you're using that vSAN environment, you can really grow a vSAN environment, but being able to schedule that out and say, you know what, once a day, I want to take a snapshot. So that when Alistair decides he's going to screw up a file, today, I can go back and get the right version from yesterday. I can get, when Joe decides he does it, well, I might not care. Alistair, at least I'll go get the file for him. So that's really how you can add files into vSAN. So vSAN gives you a lot of capability, whether it's that hyperconvergence model across the board, whether you're looking to get the best out of the hardware, whether you're building out with some vSAN ready nodes from any of the customers. I mean, we've heard about a lot of them, even with Evo, whether it's the Dell solution, Cisco, Supermicro, whoever it is, whoever you decide, doesn't really matter. You're now based on software. It pulls everything back to software and builds that software-defined data center back into it. And now, full software-defined hyperconvergence, whether it's your VMs, whether it's files, it doesn't matter. That's really what you're able to do now with the latest vSAN, and look at that process. So again, I'm Mike Letschin. Thanks a lot, and we're out.